our meeting at this time, so if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing, and Pastor Bruce Hunt from Grace Reformed Church will give our invocation.
Let's pray. Dear God, we just give you praise for this day. We thank you for life that you have given us today. We ask for your wisdom on all of our elected officials. We ask that you are here in this meeting. We also ask a blessing on all the elected officials' families as well. We thank you for their sacrifice, their service, and also the sacrifice and service of their families. We give you thanks, and we ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Gavarrecki.
Present.
Councilman Templin.
Here.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman Hayes is asked to be excused. Councilman DiGiulio.
Here.
Pro Tem Keenan.
Present.
Treasurer Armstrong is asked to be excused. Mayor Mategas.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
All right. Thank you. I'll ask for a motion for approval of the agenda for July 9th.
Motion.
Mr. DiGiulio has moved. Do I have a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Keenan. Are there any changes, additions, deletions? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's carried. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of June 11th.
Motion.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Keenan, support by Ms. Gavarrecki. Are there any questions or changes to be made? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Approval of the minutes for the meeting of June 25th.
Motion.
Support. Councilman Templin has moved. Councilman Cisco has supported. Are there any questions, changes to be made? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We're at that point where citizens' comments for 3 minutes on items that are on our agenda tonight. Okay, I see no citizens coming forward at this point. We'll move to the mayor's proclamation. We have a citizen, Magdalene Carnarvon, and her family's asked that we recognize her years with us and the years that she has spent as a resident in the city of Allen Park. So I'm just going to read her proclamation. She's not here because of health reasons. The City of Allen Park presented to Magdalene Carnarvon, celebrating 90 years of life. Whereas Magdalene Carnarvon has been a resident of Allen Park since 1948 and a member of Cabrini Parish since 1948 as well. And whereas Magdalene Carnarvon is the mother of 11, grandmother of 28, and great-grandmother of 20. And whereas Mrs. Carnarvon is a member of the Daughters of Isabella, VFW Auxiliary, and Cabrini Christian Mothers. And whereas Magdalene is an active participant in the Downriver Senior Olympics. Now there I am, William B. Matekas, Mayor of the City of Allen Park, do hereby proclaim July 20th as Magdalene Carnarvon Day. Happy birthday, Magdalene. You're living a wonderful life. I'm going to move around Ms. Parker until she's able to join us, and I'll ask for the motion on the solicitor's permit from Armed Security, Inc. to go door to door in the city of Allen Park to sell home automation systems, and there's a $300 fee attached to that.
Support. Or motion, rather.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Keenan, supported by Mr. DiGiulio. Is there any questions? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The next item is the attorneys, Mr. Grano. And before he makes his presentation, just like to thank Mr. Grano for his service to the city of Allen Park. As many of you know, he's leaving here on Friday the 12th and going to the Michigan Attorney General's office, where he will be in the criminal division.
Correct.
So we wish him well, and I think you're going to be stationed in Detroit, so you're not really moving out of town.
That's correct.
So if you want to,
Thank you, Mayor. Before you, you have the donation box ordinance. This is an ordinance that went to planning. It's been before you once before. This will regulate where people can place donation boxes in the city of Allen Park. It also requires that donation boxes in the appropriate area be licensed, and it'll be a yearly license fee. And the intent is to be keeping the donation boxes to a minimum in the city and to keep them out of the residential neighborhoods. So it'll primarily be in the business district. It has to be associated with your primary business purpose, and you have to pay a licensing fee. Are the highlights of the ordinance. You should have a copy of it with you, and we need to have a public hearing before council votes on it.
I would ask for a motion for a public hearing.
Motion.
Mr. Templin, support. It's a roll call vote. Mr. Sisco is the supporting council person.
Is this on the ordinance,
To
or
go into a public hearing.
you don't traditionally have to, for ordinance public hearing, it's an automatic because it's a third and final, so we don't have to vote to go into it. But we will need a roll call to adopt the ordinance.
All right. So we have a public hearing on the proposed ordinance, and it's the one regulating donation boxes. There's been an awful lot of complaints by citizens that the boxes seem to be springing up all over and in the most unusual places, and oftentimes inappropriate places. And so this ordinance is an attempt to control that. I believe it went to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and there were some changes that were implemented.
That's correct.
Was there chiefly
There-
paragraph 7?
Paragraph 7, and they were more interested in seeing an annual license. Originally, we were a little bit more restrictive in the number of boxes. There were some worry about some charitable organizations, specifically Cabrini, not being able to have more than one box, and so they changed it so that some uses would be able to have more than one box, but they would have to be licensed and get site plan approval.
Are there any citizens that wish to comment on this ordinance? See nobody coming forward, so I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion by the council for approval.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Sisco,
Support.
support by Mr. Templin. Is there any discussion on the matter?
Mayor, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Keenan.
Just want to thank Dan for his efforts, and Chris before him, on behalf of Dennis, Tina, and myself that are on the Legal Affairs Committee that helped draft this. Again, want to thank you for your efforts, and I know that we went back and forth a lot, and we had a lot of complaints from citizens regarding these donation boxes, so hopefully this will be able to alleviate some of that. And Dan, can you just talk about the fact that they're not grandfathered in, and that we're going to send an a memo out for them to remove them, so
Sure.
the citizens understand.
The challenge we have, some communities, specifically like Dearborn Heights, has completely banned donation boxes. There's a question of whether if you pass an ordinance now banning them, whether the boxes would be grandfathered or not. It's our position at flood law that they would be grandfathered, and so in order to get around that, we created this licensing, which we've done on some other ordinances in the past, and that will create that everybody who has a box has 60 days to get licensed. The building department will be sending out letters telling people that they will be required to be licensed through the city and to make sure that they're in compliance with the ordinance. If they're not licensed, then the city will have the ability to impound the boxes. And so that way, we can get the whole city cleaned up in the vision that the council is looking for.
Okay. Are there any other comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll ask for the roll call vote be made. Mr. Clerk?
Whereas having a third and final reading, whereas a public hearing has been conducted for proposed ordinance number 3-2013, an ordinance to amend Chapter 52, Article 6, adopting an ordinance regulating donation boxes. Shall this ordinance pass? Councilwoman Gavarecki.
Yes.
Councilman Templin.
Yes.
Councilman Cisco.
Yes.
Councilman DeGiulio.
Yes.
Councilman Keenan.
Yes.
Mayor Mategas.
Yes.
The yeses have it. I will arrange for it to be printed in the newspaper and final copies made available.
Thank you. Ms. Parker, we kind of went around your space on the agenda, but you're here, and the last item before citizens' questions and comments, so.
Okay. So you're at that point on the agenda? Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. As part of the update, what I would like to do tonight is perhaps provide some additional information related to the amendment to the charter regarding the police and fire operational millage. And I'd like to, first of all, request that Carl Johnson, who is from Plant Moran, provide some information on the homestead property tax credit. I've received questions from residents in reference to how the calculation is done and who's eligible, and so I'd like to have Mr. Johnson talk about that for a few minutes.
And those of you that know me, a few minutes is tough. So I will do my best. So as Ms. Parker pointed out, the purpose of this presentation tonight is to just try to enlighten you about how, if the millage is passed, which would increase everybody's mill rates by 3.25 mills, how that would affect your property tax credit if you're eligible for a property tax credit. So again, this isn't tax advice. I'm not your personal tax advisors. You know, each of you would have your own tax advisor and get your own tax advice. But I wanted to give you some examples of how this would benefit you and what it would mean to you. Because as we pointed out, property taxes are a deduction on your federal tax return to the extent you itemize. So again, you get a portion of your taxes back through your federal tax return, as well as Michigan has a property tax credit that specifically addresses property taxes itself and gives you money back directly related to your taxes for low to moderate income people. And so I just want to point out, in typical government form 3-4 years ago, it was your income times a percentage, and that's how much you get back. And a wonderful government in the last couple of years, our new governor has made it very complicated, so I don't want to get into all this detail, but I just do want to point out so that everybody understands how this might affect you personally. So again, I just have a couple examples here, and so I'll walk through those right now. And I'll try to point to them up here. So the property tax credit itself, you can see here, the limitations on it are your taxable value on your house must be less than $135,000. Again, taxable value. So that would mean a house worth more than $270,000 wouldn't qualify. Don't think we have a whole lot of those here, but again, this is a statewide property tax credit. Your household income must be less than $50,000 to qualify. Again, household income is defined by the state. It's basically your net income, so your W-2 wages, your interest income, minus any gains and losses you might have in the market, less any medical premiums you pay. That's the definition of the state. So it's your income less medical premiums paid is the definition of household income. And so what I did is I just gave some examples of household incomes. The credit is, again, it's up to $50,000. So I listed some examples here. The credit itself, before I get into the details, is up to 60% of your taxes you can get back from the state of Michigan in the form of a check. Whether you owe income tax or not, you get a credit back of up to 60% of your taxes, or $1,200 is the maximum amount you can get back on your taxes. So what I did was I took the household income, again, it goes from zero to basically $50,000 is the amount that, if your income is in that range, you're eligible to get a property tax credit. And then I also took our average tax bill here. So I took the average taxable value in Allen Park is approximately $40,000, so that's the average. Took that times the average mill rates. As you know, we have 3 school districts here within the city. So I didn't do district by district. I looked at the 3, and the average mills, again, this is city, county, and school mills, for a homestead property is around 48 mills. So if you have 48 mills and your taxable value is $40,000, your tax bill annually is about $1,920. The way the credit works is you take your income, your household income times 3.5%. That amount is disallowed. The rest is eligible for a credit. So in this case here, if your income's $21,000, 3.5% of $21,000 is $735. That amount is exempt from for the credit. Subtract that from your tax bill, so $1,185 of your property taxes are eligible for a credit. Okay? If you are a senior and have an income level of $21,000, 100% of that $1,185 comes back to you via a check from the state of Michigan. If you're a non-senior, again, senior is defined by the state as 65 years and older. If you're a non-senior, you get 60% of that $1,185 back, or $711. So that's how your property tax credit works. Some of you might not even know you get it if you just hand all your stuff over to a tax preparer, but it's one of those forms. It's called the MI 1040 CR form is what it is. But it's a property tax credit. Again, whether or not you pay any state of Michigan taxes, you can get your property taxes back here. And so you can see here, they give credits to seniors up to about $30,000. They get extra credits back for, again, over 65. After that, they're the same. For both seniors and non-seniors, the amount you get is the same, and you can see there by year. So if your household income is $25,000, those are the credits you get back, $30,000, et cetera. So the amount in yellow there is the amount of credit you would get back. Property tax credit, again, you pay $1,920 in taxes. The state of Michigan gives you a check back for $1,185, for $877, for $556, et cetera. What I did then was I said, okay, if the millage is approved in August, it would increase the total mills by 3.25 mills. So on that same taxable value, your tax bill goes from $1,920 to $2,050, an increase of the $130 annually would be the increase in your bill. So what would that mean to you? The first year is kind of an anomaly because the maximum credit you can get is $1,200. So for the seniors, it really is only a 15% additional savings on that $130. And again, that's just for the very low income seniors. But outside of that, you can see every other year, of the $130 in additional tax you pay, the seniors would get $109 of that, $130 back, $83 of it, $78 of it back, $46, et cetera. So of the $130 increase, you would receive that much of that $130 increase back as part of your property taxes to the extent you're at this income level, as well as the non-senior. So again, it's not as great, but again, $78 of the $130 increase you would get back in your property tax credit if your income level falls within this range. And again, the median income level of $50,000 or less, that is over a majority of our citizens here within the city of Allen Park. So again, this does affect everybody. And again, the point of this whole exercise is just to highlight the fact that if approved, the gross cost to you wouldn't be $130 if your income falls within these levels here, within the up to $50,000 range. You would get as little as $15 back, or as much as an extra $110 of that money back to you. And again, it really just depends on what your income level is and how much your taxes are. So, this is one of those things, if you have a specific question about it, we would be happy to help you in the finance office, the treasurer's office. Feel free to come in. We could run your specific example for you, but it does make a difference. And this doesn't include the federal piece as well. If you own your house, you probably itemize your taxes and deduct your property taxes on there as well. So you could get another 1/3 or less of that $130 back in your federal return. Okay, again, way too many numbers up here, I understand, but the point is that the low to moderate income people, which again is more than the majority of our residents here, would get some portion of their property taxes back if this is passed. through the Michigan property tax credit.
So you're saying a senior that makes $25,000 would potentially only have to pay $20.80
Yes,
more for
if
year
it
for-
approves, their tax bill would go up 130 gross, but the state would send them an additional check on top of the 877 they already get on their property tax credit. They'd send them 109 back related to that 130. So it'd be like, as you pointed out, an additional $21 is what the net cost would be.
For the year.
For the year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay,
Right,
thanks.
thank you. Secondly, if there are no questions for Mr. Johnson, I also had questions brought to my attention from Malcolm Beaton, and he had indicated that he'd like to perhaps ask those questions during the meeting tonight. So if Mr. Beaton is here.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. The name is Malcolm. It's been quite a while since I've been at a council meeting. I've been under the weather. I'm down, but I'm not out. A couple of questions for you, Ms. Parker. People in this city have asked that tax proposal that you're putting forth, will that strictly be for police and fire protection only? Could you answer that, please?
Yes, it's for police and fire protection only. It will be set up in a dedicated fund for that purpose.
Okay, another thing that people have asked, you probably will leave this city in about a year, maybe a little longer, and then you turn it over to the administration. It's a 10-year tax, am I correct?
That's correct. That's what's
So there will be other administrations possibly coming in. Is there any way that they could cook the books, take that money that's set aside for police and fire protection, and put it in a general fund without you being here? Is that a possibility?
Now, Mr. Beaton, basically, during the time that I'm here, the money will be set aside in a dedicated fund for police and fire operations. When I transition out of the city, what is required by the state is that I develop at least a 2-year budget for the city. And with that 2-year budget, everything is intact, cannot be amended or changed without the approval of the state. And so basically, given the fact that the funds are dedicated for police and fire, that account will be established separate from the general operating fund.
For just a 2-year period or for the 10-year period that this tax is going to be in effect?
It will be set up like that as long as the state's involved, and that could be up to 5 years in total or more, depending on how well the city does.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, because a lot of people are questioning, being it's a 10-year tax on the people, they're worried about what's going to happen down the road. I like your answer, and I will be getting a copy of this council meeting. So in time to come, in case somebody questions it, we can re-show this program here tonight that money will never be taken out of that lockbox for police and fire protection. I appreciate your answer. Thank you for being honest. And by the way, I have talked to department heads in this city. I've talked to union people in this city, and they appreciate what you are doing for the city of Allen Park. Another thing, in this city, we have the most senior citizens of any city in Wayne County. If this millage were to fail, think of the effect it's going to have on the senior citizens in this town. Like Mr. Johnson just pointed out, we have tremendous amount of seniors. We cannot forget about them. If we have no police or fire protection, someone has a stroke, someone has a heart attack, you call 911, you get no answer. In the middle of the night, you hear glass break in your house. You call 911. If this millage fails, there will be no police, no fire to come to the rescue of the people in this community. Mr. Mayor, could you shut those people up from yelling behind me? Thank you. That's not right.
You're right.
Thank you. Now, before I was so rudely interrupted, I shall continue. If that millage fails, shame on the senior citizens in this city. I hope the people realize what happens when you cut. Look in Inkster. That millage failed, they cut their police department by 50%. A week after they cut it, 5 shootings in one weekend. Over the July 4th holiday, 5 people in Inkster were shot and killed because the thieves know when you have no protection, they have nothing to worry about. Somebody calls 911, you think you were in the city of Detroit. 3 days later, you might get an ambulance, you might get a police officer out there. We cannot afford to turn this millage down. Even with this millage, I will be paying less taxes than I was 5 years ago. But if it fails, my house insurance, my car insurance will skyrocket. What is the lesser of two evils? That millage is a lot less than what we would be paying insurance on our homes and on our cars. And we will not have the fire protection and the police protection that we do right now. We need to pass that millage. I hope the people in this town, August the 6th, will follow me to the polls. Vote for that millage. Once again, Allen Park will reach its heights when it was the jewel of the town river community. Without that millage, this city will be down, almost non-existent. We need that millage passed come August 6th. Forget about those naysayers and those negative people that say, I don't want to pay that extra tax. If that be the case, you know you are talking to a fool. We need that millage passed. Thank you, Ms. Parker, for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Ms. Parker, if I could, and I know this is your section of the meeting, and certainly you are free to do as you wish, and I certainly want to say that I don't disagree with anything that Mr. Beaton said, but it doesn't seem fair to me to allow a one-sided, I don't know the word I'm looking for, dissertation or something like that. Perhaps you may want to open up for some other comments, or I don't know. I'm just, it just.
Oh, yeah, certainly. However, before doing that, I had a couple of other items on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, that's not a problem. The other item I wanted to discuss is in reference to negotiations for the fire department. I would like to share with the public that we currently have a tentative agreement that has been ratified by the firefighters as well as the city related to moving forward with fire services. And I'd like to maybe touch on some of the highlights related to the agreement. One of the items included is an immediate 10% pay cut, an increase of the years to maximum for all new hires, which will lower the cost as firefighters leave and they're replaced, an elimination of the 7% premium for paramedic pay. Between the 10% pay cut as well as the reduction for ALS services, some firefighters are receiving a 17% cut in pay with a 1% increase in pension contribution. And if you add all of that up, that's an 18% decrease. So overall, when you look at the pay cuts related to the pension, the ALS pay, the 10% as well as the amount related to health insurance, which is 80% paid by the city under this agreement and 20% paid by the firefighters. You know, in total is close to 25 to 30%.
That's a lot.
It is.
It is.
It is. I mentioned the health care changes. The deductibles have been increased. The out-of-pocket expenses have been increased. Under the new agreement, if a person retired, they no longer leave the city with a drug card that would be less than what is actually matched by active employees. And so that change has taken place. Previously, the city covered dependents and spouses regardless if they were there at the time that the employee retired. This has been eliminated. The 10-year vesting for retiree health care has been eliminated. You now must be age 52 with at least 15 years of service with the city. Employees will no longer be able to quit or leave the city and come back later saying that they're entitled to health care. And of course, this will help with reducing and slowing down the growth of the city's unfunded retiree health care. Legacy costs have been significantly reduced and controlled in the area of retiree health care. We've also changed the base plan eligibility and what you can receive in retirement. In the pension area, there have been changes made there. The multiplier for all employees, including those presently there, was reduced by 0.4% from 2.9% to 2.5%. New hires who will be placed in the plan will receive a reduced multiplier to 2%, and the increases with the final average compensation to 5 of 10 years as opposed to what has been in place beforehand. All extra components of the final average compensation, such as lump sum payouts, overtime, have been eliminated from the computation. All guaranteed rank and staffing has been eliminated. There is no minimum staffing of any kind guaranteed by this agreement. A very important aspect of this agreement is the ability to utilize part-time and volunteer fire suppression personnel. This will allow the city to develop a force which can fill in and provide additional services at a reduced rate. It will not result in the layoff of existing members. Payouts have been limited both in terms of what you can get paid off for as well as when you get them. And significant reductions in overtime will occur based upon this agreement and the elimination of the minimum staffing as well as the ability to better schedule individuals related to overtime. The city will be able to again utilize personnel, including part-timers, in order to deliver services to residents. And then one other item is the elimination of retiree health care for new hires. So those are the changes that will take place with the new contract for the firefighters effective July 1. In the area of the police unions, we have made a number of changes very consistent with the changes that have taken place with fire. And so I wanted to share the information with the residents here in the community as well as with the mayor and the council. Any questions? comments?
Can you just clarify, because I know that you clarified it for us earlier, but I think the citizens are going to be concerned because you said it's a tentative agreement, but it takes effect July 1st. So maybe you can explain to them what you explained to us so that they understand what that means.
Well, basically, these are the terms that will be incorporated in the new contract with the firefighters. Is considered a tentative agreement until it's ratified by both parties. It has been ratified by the firefighters, and it has been ratified by the city. And so at this point, as of July 1, these are the terms and conditions we'll move forward with. We'll put the information in a new contract that then will be signed by all parties.
So are we free to, I guess maybe just to elaborate a little bit more, that there was a couple of legal things, some lawsuit issues that were being dismissed that had to go to, there's actually some court things that have to be done before it can be signed, but it actually takes effect July 1st. So it is,
July 1st.
It's not a tentative in the agreement in the sense of what I look at it.
It is the
It's in
agreement.
effect.
That's correct.
Those changes are being made as we
Retroactive to
speak.
July 1.
Right.
So, Mrs. Parker, now the fire has taken those concessions, right?
Yes.
They've agreed to that. Now, how about the police? What have they done?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, in reference to the police unions, we have not been able to ratify an agreement that is negotiated at this point in time. As of July 1, an implementation order is in place in order to make the changes in the contract related to the police unions moving forward, effective July 1.
And how about the retirees? Have they given anything? I understand there's a lawsuit going on, that they've been meeting at the Presbyterian Church. Is that correct?
I'm not knowledgeable about what meetings have taken place, Councilman, but what I can say is that as of July 1, we've made changes with retiree health care, making changes with the co-pays associated with prescription drugs. We've made changes with the health plans that are provided, and we've increased deductibles, or actually included deductibles, which had not been in place beforehand. And so those are the changes that have taken place. We estimate savings in the range of about maybe $900,000.
So they will now be paying their own Medicare, whereas the city was paying for their insurance before, when they're on Medicare. They'll be paying their own?
Well, based on some federal laws, there are certain things that the city is required to pay primarily because of the commitments that have been in place in the past. In other areas where I've been able to make the changes, we've been able to effectively do that. As far as the cost, I think there's an amount that has to be paid related to retiree health care through Medicare, and that amount, I believe, is being paid by them.
So they will be paying their own Medicare premiums. The city will still continue to pay their supplement, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Supplemental care will still be paid by the city?
By the city.
By the residents of Allen Park?
That's correct.
Okay. And so if we're correct on it, the police have not come to the table with anything, correct?
Well, you know, in fairness to the
You've taken, I mean, I understand that. You've had to take it. They have not given a dime to the citizens of Allen Park.
well, again, we are still having discussions with police.
How about the $1 and $3 prescriptions? $1, $2, and $3?
There are no longer $1, $2, $3 prescription
Mayor, can you
co-pays.
take care of that?
Basically, with all of the contracts that we have in place, the prescription co-pays are 10, 20, 30,
Okay.
and in
And
some
that's
cases,
what-
and in
that's
some
what-
cases higher.
And that's what they're fighting? They don't want to pay the 10, 20, 30?
Well, I'm not really able to discuss any ongoing negotiations, but with those contracts that are in place, that's what we have in the contracts.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker.
You're welcome.
Oh, please, you'll all be able to come forward and comment if you'd like. But let's be clear, you have imposed an implementation order effective July 1st on the police department, which effectuates
All of the
reduction
changes.
in pay, changes to their health care, changes to their pension benefits and other legacy costs.
Right. Basically, with the implementation order, there's a reduction in pay by 10%. There's cost sharing with health care, 80% being paid by the city, 20% being paid by the employees. There's a change in the multiplier. There's an increase in the pension contribution from 6%, I believe, to 8%. There's a number of other changes as well, Mayor.
Yeah, roughly over $1 million in changes you took out of it,
There's
right?
over $1 million in changes with the
Likewise to the
implementation
fire
order,
department.
as well as
$2
with
million
the fire
out of the two
department.
departments, yeah.
That's correct.
That's a lot of money from 57 people.
Mayor Pro Tem Keenan had also suggested that if there are other questions related to the millage, if you'd like to step up to the podium, I can certainly try to respond to the questions. If not, I may need to get back with you.
Tim, before you, can I, just real quick, you're the last thing before citizens' comments, so maybe we should just go into citizens' comments and let them, that way. we
That
can
would be
just-
fine. There's one other item on my report. We could do that afterwards then?
Why don't you just go ahead and finish up, and then we'll just go into citizens' comments?
Well,
Is that all right?
you opened the questions. You're
Okay,
gonna
all
wanna
right, go ahead.
through.
Go ahead, Tim.
Tim, you got to,
Now?
we set a rule
Okay.
for direct questions to Ms. Parker at this
Okay.
point.
All right, I'm going to be pretty brief. It sounds as though you accomplished quite a lot. I have to say, it's impressive, just based on the list that you gave. The reduction from 2.9 down to 2.4, a big step forward. Still seems pretty high to me, but that's okay. Eliminating the minimum staffing, I think, is extremely important. People, these are things that don't get a lot of play, but I think this really involves a lot of money. Getting rid of the pension spiking, very important. I'm delighted to hear that you eliminated that, although I have to wonder how many people took advantage of it on their way out the door. How many people spiked their pension in the last month and then left?
Well, basically, as you talk about, I can't speak to spiking pensions because I may not agree with you on that point. But what I can say is that we've had 4, I believe, police officers leave the service of the city. And in those instances, some were not eligible for retirement. They decided to take another position. Or in cases where they were not really eligible, they were able to just freeze invest what they had in place at that point in time. I don't believe we had more than maybe one person that was actually eligible for retirement.
Okay, good,
Okay.
good. That's great. You mentioned about the pension. Is there any eye towards trying to get over to defined contribution, or is that kind of impossible under the circumstances?
Well, actually, for new hires related to the city, there is a defined contribution plan in place. And as we move forward, we're certainly going to take a look at some other options associated with pension plans as well. So it's not something I would rule out at this point in time. But certainly part of what was considered is being able to retain our officers and to be competitive with what we offer versus what other communities offer, because we do have good employees in place, and certainly I think the city has to be competitive, but reasonable.
You completely, absolutely, perfectly anticipated where I was going, and you just answered the question. You're absolutely right. It's important that we do have to stay competitive. I mean, we don't want everybody to quit and go somewhere else. So, but the contracts now are still reasonably competitive with other communities in the area in terms of police and fire, yes?
I think in some areas, the cuts were deeper, primarily because of the city's financial status.
Okay. How long are these contracts for?
3 years.
3 years? Okay, that's typical. Okay, well, I guess I just have one last question, which I wanted to follow up on Mr. Beaton, about this, being a public safety millage, that it's a dedicated fund, because I really, frankly, have never quite understood how this concept works. This tax increase would raise about $4.9 million per year, is that correct?
It would raise $4.9 million. However, a portion of those dollars would not come directly to the city, primarily because of certain tax rate requirements and regulations.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering, the current police and fire budget is how much?
As of the end of our last fiscal year, it was over $10 million.
Yeah, okay. Well, and that kind of gets to this question about this, dedicated $4.9 million. If we're already spending more than $10 million on police and fire, saying that $4.9 million is earmarked for that purpose is really kind of a hollow distinction, isn't it? What does that mean?
Well, it basically means those dollars that are actually generated from the mills are in a separate fund for that purpose. They're not part of the general operating fund.
Right, but that just frees up $4.9 million to spend on something else, doesn't it?
If you had $4.9 million, the unfortunate situation is that
assuming that, yes, that's right.
$4.9 million. It would be nice, though. Yeah.
Right, but we're spending $10 million on police and fire services, on police and fire, the cost of that.
Let me just clarify, Tim, if I could, it's 7.9 effective moving forward.
Okay.
I think that's important distinction.
My point is that it's more than 4.9. So saying this is dedicated 4.9 means nothing. It's an empty thing.
So $3 million.
Not really trying to debate the matter, but if someone wants to know what is generated with the number of mills, it's the 4.6 mills, $4.6 million that's generated from the millage itself. And I believe that was the question that was raised, and whether those dollars would be used for police and fire services. And so that is the intent, and that's what will be done.
I understand this, but when I first heard about this, and that's why I say I'm maybe a little confused about how this works, it reminded me of what happened years ago when voters in Michigan approved a lottery, a state lottery, because it was promised to the voters that all the money raised from the lottery would go to education. And in fact, it did. They just reduced what the general budget was spending on education by the same amount. And so it was kind of a shell game. And that's what I'm trying to understand, is how this is not a shell game. $4.9 million, public safety, police and fire. We spend more than that on police and fire, so do you understand my question here? I don't get what public safety millage means.
So the general fund is subsidizing it by $3.3 million.
I do understand your question, but I guess what I'm really trying to state is that because the city has a deficit in place, if the millage isn't something that was in place, then the only way we can generate enough money to cover our operation is to reduce our expenses far and beyond what we've done already. And so certainly it's a decision that each taxpayer would need to make, is whether they would prefer having us substantially reduce our service level, reduce our staffing over and above what we've done already, because whether we get the millage or whether we reduce the amount, something has to happen simply because the money is not there.
Okay,
But if you should have other questions, feel free to give me a call or stop in.
Thank you. And again, I think what you have done already was beyond what I expected to happen. Thank you.
Can we move on back to
Well,
I think he's had as much time as Malcolm did.
Well,
I just have a question. I have a question for Carol, maybe Carol needs to answer this. When you're getting, or maybe.
Identify yourself,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. My name's Marcy DiGiulio. Happy birthday, Dad.
Oh, happy birthday.
Carol,
Thank you.
when you did that income tax where they're gonna get the money back, do the people have to make, like the seniors, a minimum amount of money before they file taxes and get that?
No, property tax, you don't have to have any income to file a property tax credit.
You don't have to have any income.
Correct.
And they would get back, so if they paid $2,000 in taxes a year, let's say on their house, what would they get back if they had?
Max is 1,200.
Okay, the max is 1,200. So they're already getting, because we know on that $40,000 house, it's already that amount. So that tax increase is not coming back to anybody. I mean, if the max is 1,200. On a little old lady that's making $900 a month Social Security, because that's.
Just about everybody would get more back from their taxes.
They only get up to 1,200 back.
Right, but it would be rare that you'd be making less than $20,000.
We got a lot of little old ladies making $900 a month on Social Security, just so you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, this is appropriate for citizens' comments.
Oh, I can't ask a question?
Mr. Deaton got up and talked about the public safety, and we thought we should give equal time, which we did. Can Joyce finish up her comments and we can move?
Well, I
This
think
is-
Do you want
she
me-
finished her
She did not
comments.
finish. She's got one more item left.
I do have another item, you know, if.
What would you like me to do?
DiGiulio.
I'd like you to
Hold
come up
for a
with
moment.
citizens' comments. That's, what you're asking has nothing to do with what Mr. Beaton said.
It has total everything to do with the tax credit, because you're telling these old
Okay,
seniors
look.
that they're gonna get
Wait a
all their
minute, wait a
money.
minute.
They're not getting all their money back.
Well,
say that.
and you,
No, she can
No.
come up with citizens'
wait a
comments.
minute,
She
wait a
had
minute.
equal time.
No,
I'm fine,
please.
I'm fine, I'm fine, Mayor, I'm fine, I can come up with citizens'
She has
comments.
one more
I'm
time,
fine.
and before citizens' comment, no, because I think we opened it and said Ms. Parker would take the questions directly before citizens' comments. I think that was the understanding of,
In regard, I thought this would be equal
and I
time.
thought, I don't think it was an equal time with Mr. Beaton. I think it was simply the question of all the things that were raised either by Mr. Johnson, by Mr. Beaton, or by Ms. Parker. And so she has one item left, so I just want you to respect the fact that I didn't realize, I thought you'd given one item, but you had two items
I
left.
really have two more.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
all right.
Will you
well,
just
let's-
not cut me off at my 4 minutes during citizen comments?
It's
and I'll
not a
just stop?
4-minute, we're going to bring you back
All
up,
right.
but she's got one, okay. I thought I was counting,
Okay,
it's like my wife, her one item is always two,
I-
at least.
okay. The other item that's come up is in reference to, you know, keeping the city clean and orderly and being able to really do the things that are necessary so that Allen Park looks great overall. And so part of what we've done is bring on board over the summer 2 ordinance officers. And again, I've gotten several questions, emails about what are the procedures, you know, how do you handle certain issues? And so I've asked one of our ordinance officers, Ken Simmerly, to be here tonight to just briefly talk about what is required by the city in the ordinance as far as blight, so that everyone is aware of what we're doing and why.
Thank you, Ms. Parker, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Ken Simmerly, and I am one of your ordinance officers. When I started in May, one of the biggest concerns was property maintenance and the way things were looking around the city. So what we had done was implemented this program where we would go through our neighborhoods and looking at a lot of these homes that were either occupied or unoccupied, and determine if the property was obviously unacceptable. Over that time, since the beginning of May, we've had over 200 letters of warning issued to homes. We've issued over 100 cut orders, which is where our contractor from the city would go in there and cut the lawn and maintain the property. Out of those 100 cut orders, 58 of those were invoiced for payment, which is $400 if our city contractor goes in there to cut the grass. A couple of them had some debris pickups, which they left, you know, just an abundance of garbage and trash in the yards where they would have to bring a dumpster in, and they would clean it up. So we're staying on top of that. If the home looked like it was occupied, we would give them an opportunity to rectify the problem. I would put a notice of violation in their door, telling them that they're not in compliance with the ordinance, and they had the opportunity to correct it, and if not, then the grass cutting order would be submitted to our contractor, and they would cut the grass. So we've been quite busy with that, and I've received a lot of comments from residents saying that they're happy to see us out there and to see the improvements that have been made by myself and my partner Ryan, who works with me as well. So that's with grass cutting and noxious weeds and debris around yards. The other thing we've been facing was people parking their motorhomes and RVs and trailers and things of that nature on their property. That time of year, summertime, everybody's camping. They want to think that they can keep their motorhome or their travel trailer at their house. That is not the case. Those people are allowed to store their motorhome at their house for up to 20 days, but they are required to apply for a permit from the building department. They're allowed to keep it for 20 calendar days for cleaning or minor repairs to be made on that vehicle, no more than 12 consecutive days. If they wanted to visit the building department, they would be able to get an application for a permit in order to do that. So that we've been working on. There's been some other issues about the rat problem, and everybody knows that we have rats in our city, and a lot of it is caused by the debris and the harborage that are left by these unoccupied homes. Those people are also told that maybe have some stackable wood or things around their yards. They need to get rid of it. It needs to go to the curb for garbage pickup. Wood for burning in fire appliances needs to be elevated off the ground, minimum of 6 inches, to eliminate the opportunity for rats and rodents to harbor in there. So we've been busy with that as well. There's been a couple emails that were sent in regards to signs around the city with businesses or property owners. The sign ordinance is very broad, and to read it, it's very confusing at times. We try to understand it and enforce it the best way we can, especially with the businesses and maybe obstructed view, putting sandwich boards or something at the property entrance to their restaurant or to their gas station or something like that, and it causes obstruction and accidents could happen. Those are easy to handle because we know that you can't obstruct view. Some of the other ones are a little bit more difficult, and I think, the way this ordinance is, if maybe the council can possibly speak with maybe some of the other communities and look at what their sign ordinance is and possibly maybe rewrite this or get it a little bit more understanding. And it would be a little bit easier to enforce a sign ordinance at that point. So that is basically all I have. I hope just this little bit of information was helpful, and you guys understand that we're going to try to make this city beautiful again. We want our property values to be increased, and I think we're on the right track to get in there. So, thank you very much.
Couple of questions, Mr. Simon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one of them is, I've gotten a couple of calls on the house at Shenandoah and Ecorse, and I drove by and looked at it. Has that been taken care of?
It has, and I know exactly who you're talking about. I was just there yesterday, as a matter of fact.
So it's all cleaned up?
It is not yet, but it is. He's been issued several violations already. Animal control, from Downriver Central has been out there.
I understand there was some pets in the yard?
There was, and they left with 2 of them.
Yeah, not the pets we usually like around our house, but there was pets there.
Yeah.
And I gotta commend you. I mean, I live on Belmont, and I've seen you come by my house twice. Good thing I keep it neat looking, otherwise I'd be in big trouble. But I can tell twice you come by my house. I see you slowing down and staring, so.
Oh,
Okay, and then, so we are going to take care of Shenandoah because it really is
He's being addressed.
two of the neighbors. I mean, and I understand it. My
understand.
house all looked like that here a couple weeks ago, so I cleaned it up so I saw you driving by.
I just, and, just to let you know, or the citizens that live on Shenandoah or in that neighborhood, I gave this man an opportunity to make the correction. And if it's not corrected, that the city contractor is gonna go in there with a dumpster, and we're gonna take all that stuff out of there.
I sent a fellow over there that was willing to just to take his junk and clean up the yard for him, and he was picking and choosing. He wanted it all stored in his garage, and he wouldn't let him take everything. He says, "I'll take all your junk and not charge you," and even throw the grass cutting in, but he wouldn't go for that.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you. I
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate seeing you around the city, you and
Thanks,
your
I
partner
appreciate it.
Ryan both.
Thank you all.
Is that your cell phone?
No, that's his.
Oh, you're recording, okay. Ms. Parker, you're,
Just quickly, in reference to the Southfield lease properties, basically, we are continuing to get some interest in the property. We have a couple of potential individuals looking at the property right now. We're also working with the State of Michigan Department of Treasury in reference to restructuring the bond issue. So that process is still underway. And I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that it's not forgotten. Part of the budget for this fiscal year is a reduction in our debt service related to the properties until we're able to get everything sold. So that process is underway.
Can I, quick question?
well, let's,
We can't ask Mrs. Parker a question on her statement? I mean, I'm just curious about, maybe Mr. Boomer can answer this. Did we actually sell that 6 acres in the back corner there to Mr. Foley? I know he was here that one day, and he was buying 6 acres of that property for $52,000. Has that been completed? That was probably 6 months ago. It has not, so is it
Yeah.
still continuing, or is it?
Talks are ongoing.
Talks are ongoing? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. DiGiulio, take your question to Ms. Parker.
Okay. And, I'm not trying to sound petty, but can you, I know you removed a citizen a couple weeks ago and subsequently had him arrested, okay? Mr. Wojcinski is back there calling me a cow. I may be heavy, I'm a person, I do not deserve that. I'm asking you to please remove him under the rules of decorum, just like you've done to other people. I'm asking for this, Mayor.
I don't know that anybody else but you has heard Mr. Wojcinski, Mr. DiGiulio. So if you'll ask that question.
Who's heard? They have.
They have, he has,
Right, and I'm not with them, okay?
and this has been going on.
So,
Mr. DiGiulio.
I'm asking
Mr.
you
Wojcinski,
Yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
I'm asking you to
you've
remove
heard
him
5
like you-
people here confirm what Mr. DiGiulio says, so.
I'm not calling a cow.
And whatever it was called, it was uncalled for, so I'm, Mr., like, we're not gonna,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wojcinski, I'm gonna ask you to leave the chambers.
I'm going to ask you to take Mr. Julio out also.
I think that's why the Secret Service visited his house, because he wanted to do that. to
Oh,
the
now
president,
wait,
too. All right,
hey,
okay.
you don't go there.
What the,
You don't go there.
okay, all right, here, let me ask these.
This is ridiculous.
Are the retirees,
You
Who said we?
can lose and sit down. You don't have the right to call somebody something
I
at a
didn't call
public meeting.
anybody anything.
Oh, you
I didn't call
you
anybody a name.
implied that there was some criminal
I'll-
attention. Please sit down. You've
I'll
gone
be
as
back
far.
up in citizen comment.
And that will not happen tonight. All right, we are going to go to citizens' comments at this point.
Hi, my name is Mike Mullins. I live on Horger Avenue. I just want to thank Ms. Parker, the City Council, the Mayor, and all the collective bargaining units for the shared sacrifices. This resident really does appreciate the steps that you guys all made, and, at this point forward, I really, really do appreciate all the men and women in uniform, all the retirees that here in the city that have made these shared sacrifices, and I'm willing to step up to the plate on August 6th and make that shared sacrifice as well. So I want to say thank you. It's a great step in the right direction. I'm still a little bit nervous about the 10 years, you know, because Ms. Parker, as you acknowledge, that it's only guaranteed the 1 year that you're in place, or how long you're in place, in 2 years guaranteed. And we know what happens with administrations, you know, afterwards, that, you know, they have an influx of money and who knows what happens. But I think that we are making the right steps, and I truly appreciate the IAF 1410 for their cooperation, and I'm sure that the police will come to the table. And we have, I have had utilized police and fire services in the past, and I want to just tell you that, and the DPS, and ask me and everybody here, and I just want to say that they do an amazing job at what they do. They are the best of the best, and I greatly appreciate their service. So with that being said, though, I do have a concern regarding, I do see what the ordinances are being taken care of. However, I still have a concern with the sign ordinance. And I believe in the sign ordinance, it does say that all temporary signs have to have a permit. And that's one of the things that, you know, it's pretty clear in the ordinance that it does say temporary signs have to have a permit. So I still think we can enforce that. Since we are having the donation box letters go out, can we have the letters go out for the sign ordinance as well? I think this will be an appropriate time to do so, and I think that it will correct two problems: aesthetics for the city. You know, again, revenue generating as well, temporary sign permits, as long as they're, you know, aesthetically pleasing, not obstructing view. I think that, you know, businesses can have temporary signs as long as they fall in with the city ordinance. So I just think, I'm glad that you guys all stepped to the plate and realized that there was a blight problem with donation boxes. I believe there's a blight problem with the sign ordinance, or with the signs as well. So I think that we can correct these both, and I really do like the direction this city is headed in. And Ms. Parker, geez, I wish you would move into the city of Allen Park, run for mayor, city council, or become a city administrator. No offense, Mr. Boomer, but I like the steps that you have taken. So thank you so much for all your help. And again, thank you to all the collective bargaining units and all the residents and everything that have to put up with what we've been putting up through. But I see a bright future for Allen Park. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I could just comment.
Yes, Ms. Kruger.
I just want to also take this opportunity to just state that with the fire negotiations, it was difficult for, I think, with the management as well as the firefighters, and the contract truly is a sacrifice, a shared sacrifice on their part, and I want to thank them as well as the other employees for their support as well. And then, you know, on your comment related to the sign ordinance, an email was sent to Jennifer Kibbe suggesting that through the DDA we can try to disseminate information to the businesses related to the ordinance. And then the other part is suggested by our ordinance officer that we perhaps take a look at the ordinance and make changes to make it more applicable for today and the use here in Allen Park. So I'm hopeful that the mayor and the council will consider doing that.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Tim O'Brien, resident of Allen Park. Just a couple of quick things in my citizen comment. First of all, I think you perhaps misunderstand. I would love to have Mrs. Parker running the city too, but she has extraordinary power as an emergency manager. She ran for mayor. She wouldn't be able to do these things. But also, that, you know, you shouldn't be too concerned about, you know, what might happen 5 years down the road, because a charter amendment can be amended again. You know, if the situation changes, we could always petition, put it on the ballot, and say we're going to repeal this or change it. So it's not like it's carved in stone. But what the only thing I really wanted to say this evening is a great segue into it. Is a little incident that happened. Those of you who remember when I used to give our former mayors trouble, especially King and Hubler and Jerry Richards, they used to come all the time. And I disagreed with them. A lot of them had some quite pointed exchanges with Kyle Turtze, but I never made it personal, you know, and in fact, I remained on good friendly terms with all of these people. And something that concerns me is when I hear name calling, and when I hear people attributing motives, all right? In fact, you know, that's how something ought to be out of order. You know, when people say, here's what you mean, and here's what you're gonna do, here's what you're gonna say, don't question somebody's motives. You can disagree with them, but don't, you know, one guy, you know, posted something, said, you're a liar. Well, that, you know, I could be wrong, and in fact, Mayor Pro Tem Keenan corrected a misstatement that I made last time. I wasn't aware. I said that the governor's best practices was 1.5. He said, well, that only applies to clerks and not to the police. Okay, I had that wrong. Fine, thank you, I admit it. Okay, but you can do this without being disagreeable the way I have seen happen. It didn't used to be that way 10 years ago. And also, the last thing is, I also think it's very important for us to actually listen to one another. You know, people have their mindset on something, and I think they really don't hear. It's like they're going, you know, they don't hear. Like at the last meeting, I had to leave, but afterwards, it was a couple of people said, well, you know, I had my facts wrong. Turned out I did have one of them wrong, but the only thing that was mentioned was that these things are all changing, you know, come July 1st. And I had been really careful to, you know, make that point. So I went and watched it on TV, and in the space of 4 minutes, an average of every 30 seconds, I said, I got some quotes here, this is the way the situation currently is. To this minute, as we sit here, our employees currently, I'm disappointed as I stand here on June 25th that almost nothing has been done. Okay. There have been not one clause has been changed. Before the new contract kicks in, we have not seen any reforms imposed yet. We've got lots of plans to start next year, but so far, okay, in the space of 4 minutes, I said this 8 times. And yet, a couple of council people in their comments afterwards said, well, Mr. O'Brien's got his facts wrong. These things are changing on July 1st. Yeah, I made a clear point that I was talking about the current situation. So let's listen to each other also, okay? Thank you.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Wayne Albright, Elm Park resident. You know, tonight I really did not have a plan to come up here and say anything. But after Mr. DiGiulio so emphatically stated that the police have not given a dime, I had to come up and say something, especially when at a time like this in our city, when we hope that all elected officials will be talking positive about city workers, approximately 80 of us who are giving up an awful lot. It was sad to hear that that statement was made. So I think the people need to know, too, that we've given up a lot, even before this change. Last year, under a closed contract, we gave back a 2% raise because the city asked us to. A couple of years before that, we gave back a raise, 2%, on a closed contract. We went to 12-hour shifts. We eliminated, several years ago, deputy chief and 5 inspectors. We have reduced the staffing levels. We used to have 58 officers, and now we have 32. That's a shame. We have reduced the minimum staffing before this time. So there were less people on the road, and we've talked about that a lot, so you people know that. We changed staffing levels in the Detective Bureau. All this with closed contracts in years past. And now, after doing all that, now we've been imposed 20% or whatever it is, she said tonight, about 20% more of our pay. So I think it's just a sad statement to make that the police department has not given a dime. I think people need to know we have very much wanted to work with the city for years, and we have tried to be part of the solution, and we still are. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Ben Harris.
And I'm Trent Wolf.
We just wanted to make a brief announcement. Ms. Parker asked us to make this. We wanted to remind everybody of the upcoming rally. It's called United for Allen Park on July 18th. It starts at 6:30 p.m. behind the Allen Park Presbyterian Church. We will be walking to Cabrini, and then there will be speakers. Transportation will be provided for people who aren't able to walk, and then there will be food, I think.
There will be.
There will be food. That's always a draw. And we really wanted to urge everybody to really come out to this rally. Things are obviously overtly contentious in this room, but the fact is that we're all members of this city, and if we sit here and rip each other apart, it's not going to solve anything. It never has, and it never will. And so we just want to urge people to come out to this rally and just stand together and be proud of our city.
And I just wanted to say that if you're on Facebook tonight, there will be an event posted by us for the rally, and we'll be inviting people, and we urge everybody to invite anybody they know in Allen Park to come out to it and join us for this great event.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Ms. Parker. Ray McGusson, citizen of Allen Park, Quant Street. Let's move forward. It's time to move forward. Let's bury the hatchet. It's time to do that. Let's become citizens. It's time to do that. Let's work together. It's time to start to do that. The city needs everybody. I'm going to shock a lot of people today. I'm going to vote yes for this millage. I'm retired. I worked for the big three. I put 42 years in there. And I'm ready to enjoy my retirement. But let's move forward. This is very hard for me to come up here and say that. But here's what we need to do. Let's work out of the box. We need that building that's by Thunderbolt tore down. It looks like hell. I brought that up a number of times. The only thing we've been hearing, it's going to happen. Knock it down. Let's start planting some plants around here, some color. Go down Champaign. I want to thank the young kids that got their butts in trouble, because without them, those flower beds wouldn't be, the weeds would still be growing there. I want to thank other persons that were in the armed services that put their lives in danger every day. For the ones who died, the 4th of July was a very important day. Boy, did it make me think. Went to Wyandotte, one hell of a parade. Brought tears to my eyes. Without them, I don't know if I'll be able to be up here. They gave us the right to come up here. So let's move forward. But here's the problem. We cannot allow what happened to us ever happen again. The contracts are only 3 years. We can't have another administration come in and turn around and turn that around again. Something has to be done. I also feel that the older retirees that have been retired for quite some time might be living off a smaller pension. Sometimes maybe the two unions can get together, like the big three did, and help the retirees get a little bit more instead of them taking it. So let's move forward. We need volunteers. It makes you feel good right in here. I took that on. It makes you feel good. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
one comment on Mr. McGusson's statement there. We do, for the retirees, have a hardship relief provision on their health care, which is the only change that's being made.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. We do have a one-page form that basically requires completion and forwarding that to our Human Resource Director, and we can certainly provide some consideration, based on income or need to make it more affordable for those that are not able to meet the changes that have taken place.
Mayor and Council, Craig Hickey from Allen Park. I'd like to talk a little bit about the millage, and I know a lot of people have said some about if it passes, what the city is going to look like. You're going to keep about the same services. You're going to have about the same amount of police officers, and about the same amount of fire, DPS, and the public, and the water in the back. What I don't think people understand really is what the city will look like if the no vote happens. The first thing people have, around will tell me is, hey, well, I don't want to pay more taxes, so I'm going to vote no. I was like, well, as I understand it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you're going to pay more regardless of what happens. You're paying more whether it be for fire services or for lighting or for garbage pickup or for whatever. If the no vote happens, there'll be 2 firefighters in the station, and there'll be 6 less police officers, and I'm afraid of what happens to my city if that happens. You got, like I said, there are the seniors and everybody else that lives here, everybody else who's vested in the city. I've been here, 38 years almost now. And it's important to me to keep the city and the property values up where they go, the schools where they are, because to me, I think nothing is more important than the schools. And the schools have held the property value up in the city as much as anything ever has. And without the schools, we're all in a lot of trouble. And that kind of goes to my point with the services. That's kind of next in line. When you go down the street and the grass is cut, when you go down the street and you see the water guys fixing the water main, when you go down and you call, like Malcolm was saying, that when the glass breaks at 2 in the morning, when the ambulance shows up in 3 minutes, those are the kind of things that make people want to live in a place. And the whole culture of Allen Park, what's the motto? It's a safe place to live, work, and play. It ain't going to be that way if the no vote happens, in my opinion. So if I've missed anything as far as what the city will look like and the things that you're going to have to impose, the garbage fees, the lighting fees, 2 firefighters only, 6 less police officers. If there's something I'm missing, I'm sure there is. Could you kind of go into that? Because I think what a no vote means is just as powerful as what a yes vote means. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Gail McLeod, and I've been a resident of Allen Park for over 40 years. I raised a family here. I came here after I was married. I raised 3 children who grew up to be fine adults. I'd like to echo some of the comments made by Mr. O'Brien and several others about behaviors. I've been watching council meetings for quite some time, and it has struck me that there are some folks on both sides of the table who don't quite seem to know how to behave on occasion. I sit in my living room and I think, if they were my kids, I'd probably slap them up alongside the head and tell them, behave, grow up. I don't have to do that with my kids because they did grow up to be adults, but apparently not everyone has. We have lost something in this country about decorum. There used to be statesmanship, and there isn't anymore. We all sit there and we mumble behind each other's backs and we make comments, derogatory. We don't listen to people, as Mr. O'Brien said. We're so wrapped up in what we want to say that we've forgotten to pay attention to anybody else. We've forgotten that we don't have the only opinion, and our opinion isn't always right. We need to be open to others' opinions. I understand retirees. I'm retired. I'm on a fixed income. I also did some calculations because I want to understand the millage and what it means to me. I can tell you that from the high point, when my property was valued at its peak in 2007, since that time, I have paid almost $3,000 less in taxes in the last 5 years. Not $3,000 annually, but total. With this new proposed millage, taking a look at my current summer bill, the valuation, and I apply the new proposed millage, it's going to cost me in December all of $137.48. And I extrapolated that out, increasing my property value over the next 10 years, keeping in mind that the current 3.25 or 3.5 is going to stop after 5 years. So we're not going to be paying that after 2016. The current 3.5 mil for the fire and police is a 5-year millage, as I understand it.
But it's being rolled into the 3.25, so there's a total.
Right. But after 2016, is that going to continue?
It's a 10-year millage. The 3.5 goes away because it becomes part of the 6 3/4.
Okay, so it's going to continue. But regardless, I mean,
The increase you would see is 3.25 in December because the 3.5 has been levied on our July tax bills.
but all I'm saying is we're currently paying the 3.5.
Right.
You know, even if I extrapolate it out further, by 2022, it's only going to be around $200, and this is increasing my property tax value. And I would venture to guess for $137.48, most people probably spend more than that monthly on some other item, cigarettes, pop, candy, whatever. But to me, if you break that down onto a monthly, it's really not something that we can't afford. And based on the fact that costs haven't gone down and we're making efforts and inroads to take care of business, we got to stop beating that old drum and getting aggravated with everybody. We're trying to punish people, and I don't know why, and we don't seem to understand that the people we're punishing are ourselves and our city.
John Sullivan, Allen Park. I was going to come up here and make a speech tonight, but starting with Malcolm, they stole my thunder. And this last lady finished it up. So what I'm going to do is say goodnight to everybody, and let's go home.
I'd just like to remind everybody that the car show is tomorrow from 5:30 to 9 o'clock. It's been rescheduled due to bad weather, but the weather is going to be good tomorrow night. Good things are coming downtown. We're also having a ribbon cutting for Oppelman's on Thursday, and Thai Balai is officially open. So come downtown.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Miller, City of Allen Park. I just want to go real slow and easy here. It was awesome. Mrs. Parker, I want to thank you for letting us all know on how negotiations and how things went. Let the public know that those guys all, so far have all dove in and gave in, and I'm totally confident that the police will follow right behind. And it goes down to the ASME and those other people in the left wing, those retirees or whoever they are. It's really good to see that that's a lot of progress that we've made, and I think we're heading in the right direction, and it has to be from all you guys involved, including Ms. Parker. So I know she can't do it on her own, so apparently you guys are definitely standing up and making things happen, which is awesome. It's what we all want to see and hear. And there was a couple kicks to the groin that I won't even bring up any names. I'm sure he knows who he is and when he did it, and It was uncalled for, and thank God one of the officers came up and gave the information that they have been giving. You know, sometimes you got to understand, you know, you got to sit back and you got to realize some of these guys, if, you know, they have families or they've just started a career, you know, and they're asked to give these, you know, these huge percentages or, you know, mess with their multiplier or whatever. We know there has to be compensation, but, you know, sometimes it's kind of tough, you know. I mean, it's not so easy. If anyone, you know, of you, if you were approached during your work career and they said, hey, how about giving up, you know, 20%? I'd like to see how many hands went flying up in the air. I mean, it's only human nature, so, you know, sometimes you got to go with a little couth to some of these people. I mean, they're trying to survive also, and we know that we fell into a huge hole. And hopefully, you know, we'll crawl out of it one step at a time. You know, and on another note, hopefully, I personally know Kevin Foley, and I did hear something about, hopefully we'll make some headway. I know Kevin's an awesome person, and he's really trying to get this business, and he wants it to land it right in Allen Park, so whatever the snags are, hopefully we can work them out real quick and start putting up the block right over there. And you guys all have a good evening. Mike, how you doing? Good to see you, buddy. All right. Good night.
I see no other citizens coming forward. Oh.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Ms. Parker. My name is Ed Can, and I wanted to ask Ms. Parker if I might, one other thing. Is there a rollback provision in the proposed millage increase?
Yes, basically in the ballot language, it has a not to exceed number of mills. And what the intent is to basically take a look at the needs for the city on an annual basis as part of the budgeting process. If the city has a 10% reserve in place, which is pretty standard in terms of recommendations from the state, any amount over and above that could actually be used to roll back the millage. And so the intent is to roll it back if there's not a need to levy the amount. And certainly that is something that I commit to as part of this process.
And has any of these rollback provisions ever been rolled back before, where taxes have been increased, but then funds have been found to be satisfactory?
It has occurred. You know, I can't tell you in every community, but in one of the communities where I've worked beforehand, there was a special assessment in place, and it was over a 10-year period. However, after the second year, the city did not need the additional revenue, and so any amount over and above that standard then was actually reduced with the millage. And so part of what I would consider doing is that same process, and I'm sure it's happened in other communities as well.
Excellent, thank you. And the last question I had about it, I know there's some people that were concerned about the possibility of after the state had left Allen Park in 1 to 5 years of time, this is a 10-year proposal. Is it not sewn into the law, hammered into the law that these funds must be placed in a, as people are calling a lockbox for police and fire? Is that correct? I mean, there's no way that these mills that are collected in year 6 or year 7 can be changed without another vote of the people.
Well, as far as increasing beyond what is in the actual amendment, that's not possible. Certainly, it can be rolled back, as we had talked about earlier. But I think the primary issue for me is really having some level of trust in your governmental unit and recognizing that if things are not moving in a certain direction, and certainly part of what I'll be doing is issuing an order outlining the rollback provision and how it would work. And I would expect at some point when the state is no longer involved, which may be years from now, the city council then seated would basically follow the provisions within that order.
Thank you very much. Lastly, I'd just like to say those two young men that came forward, and I believe it's Father Joe out of Cabrini, and forgive me, I don't recall the name of the pastor at the Presbyterian Church, but the
Reverend Blakey.
Reverend Blakey, the United for Allen Park March on the 18th, I believe, is a wonderful idea, and the spirit with which people spoke, including the citizen that came forward and spoke about her adult children. I would love to be one of her children because my mom smacked me in the head every time I did anything wrong as well. And the spirit that's moving forward in town is one that I think is great. Thank you very much.
All right, I don't think there's anybody coming forward at this point, so I'm going to come to the council for elected official comments. And his daughter kind of stole my thunder, but happy birthday, Councilman DiGiulio, and since it's your birthday, we'll let you speak first.
Hold up your card. Thank you. Card my family made for me. I took them all to the show yesterday, and
That's nice.
they made this.
Very nice.
And I want to say,
That's a minion.
well, that's what's in the movies.
I had to go there Saturday with my two kids.
You know what it is. Anyway, I'm going to say, Marcy, I'm so proud to have you for my daughter. You achieved something no other woman before you has or ever has since, and be Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Allen Park. And that's a real thing for a woman to achieve, and I think it's great that it was my daughter that did it. And I want to say I want to thank all my family for being here today at my birthday, even my family that came in from Minnesota. We're a very, very close family. We look after each other and we take care of each other. And Marcy, when I was recovering from my open heart surgery, I couldn't have asked for a better daughter. I couldn't have asked for a better wife than Joy, or an ex-wife like Marcella that was there to help me every day they were there. How many people have their ex-wife come to their house cooking and helping out and cleaning and working with their wife? I know a lot of divorced guys in here. Their wife wouldn't even have nothing to do with them, especially after they, well, I don't even want to go into that. But anyway, Marcy, I'm really proud of you, you know, and I guess your mom's good to me because I never left her when she was pregnant. I always took care of her and had her life be good. And I never had any problems with her over the years. I never messed with her at all. She just don't like men, I guess. I mean, I must have ruined her. She never found another guy. Or was I that good? I don't know which. But I know Marcella has kept me for over, Joy has kept me for over 30 years, and she had me for 20, so that gives 50. I guess when I have my 50th reunion, I'm going to put one on each arm and walk down the street with them. But anyway, it's really been great to have the family I have. I mean, even, like I said, even an ex that looks after my life and my children and my grandchildren, and even Joy's children and grandchildren. She looks after them too. She'll pick them up from school. She'll do all the little odds and ends, which is above and beyond the call of duty. Not too many people have a family like that. And you, Marcy, I couldn't have asked for a better daughter, or probably son, because you're too damn mean to be a daughter. I don't know, you know. Anyway, I'm going to say, the mayor's agreeing. The mayor's agreeing. Okay, anyway, I'm going to say good night. And
You made it to 70.
and I made it to 70. Thank you, Mrs. Parker.
Councilwoman Gabrecki.
Thank you, Mayor. Like Mr. Sullivan, some of my thunder's been stolen this evening as well, so I wanted to remind everybody about the Unity Walk, so thank you to the two gentlemen that came up. I wanted to remind everybody about the DDA car show, which I was glad to see it was a go this time, so thank you, Jennifer. Dan, thanks. It's been fun working with you, and wish you the best. To all of the residents that came up and made some really good comments tonight, thank you. A lot needs to be said. There needs to be a lot of respect both ways here, and open-mindedness, and we need to better understand everybody. Our way is not always the right way, and I think when we have more open communication, we'll make this city be what it once was, and will be again. So I also want to thank the bargaining units, Ms. Parker, for your updates this evening, and for all of the city employees for all you do every day. I know everything's tight and short-staffed now, so I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, and good night.
Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank everybody. You had some awesome comments tonight. Again, I'm going to reiterate what I said a couple meetings ago, that we've got a short amount of time to get the word out there. A lot of us, me included, have asked for these changes in this contract. Anybody that knows me, that knew me when I ran for council, knew that I was against final average compensation with the roll-ins, all that stuff. You've heard me say it for almost 2 years now. I'm thankful, as Mr. O'Brien said, that we didn't have the hammer to do it, and I'm thankful that Ms. Parker did it. I do think that, again, I said the other day, we've got, it's actually lower now. I keep saying 57, but I forgot about those that have left. But, 50-some employees are giving up $2 million, and we're asking $28,000 to kick in for 4.6, and I think it's shared sacrifice. That's the word that I heard from all you folks when I was running. I've heard it for 2 years now. You've asked for shared sacrifice, and it's here. So I would ask you, and those of you at home, as I said last time, to get out there and talk to your neighbors. I mean, we are out of time. We've got to get the word out there. You need to go out and talk to 10 or 15 people if you're willing, and you know your neighbors. Get out there and let them know. Let them know that that the changes they've been asking for took effect July 1st. If that was your stumbling block for moving the city forward, it's done. Certainly there's going to be people that won't vote for a millage no matter what we did if everybody decided to work for free, but I just would appreciate it if you'd take the time and the effort to let the folks know, because I said the other day, and I stand by it, I talk to people all the time that have no idea that the city's in financial problems. It's crazy. I mean, at our business, we have people that walk in all the time. How long have you been here? 6 years? People are oblivious to what's going on around them. I mean, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it's true. You need to get out there and talk to people. I'm doing it. I've been doing it. I've been trying to go out and meet with some folks. I've made some attempts to meet with groups and what have you, and spent some of my own money to try to bring people in, and provided food and stuff like that to try to get the message out there. So I'm asking you to do that. I want to tell you, and I agree with Mr. O'Brien, I did apologize to him prior to the meeting tonight for the way, I did not mean to come across sometimes, we're tired and whatever, and we say things we didn't mean. I did not mean to be disrespectful to him, and I did not see the meeting, so I don't know exactly what he said, so I can't go back and refute it. But he is right. I wanted to say, and it's not just from him, I've heard from other people that I keep hearing this, the governor's best practice is 1.5 on the multiplier. I don't know, I've never seen that document. If somebody's got it, I'd love to see it. But the Michigan State Police, who would be the most apples and apples to our police, are able to retire after 25 years at any age. Doesn't matter how old they are. 25 years of service, and they get 60% of their final 2 years, final 2 highest years or whatever it is. So they don't use the multiplier term that we do, but it's pretty simple. If you divide 60 by 25, it's 2.4. So 1.5 is the governor's benchmark, but yet he's paying his state police a 2.4 multiplier. I don't get the logic there, but I don't believe that there's any document that says there's a document. And I could be wrong. I'm not going to say, somebody can show me, but the people that have said it are correct. The 1.5 multipliers for clerical staff and those folks that work in offices, clearly I hope that we all understand that their job is much different than the job of a police officer and firefighter, and that we certainly shouldn't have apples and oranges when we talk about multipliers compared to somebody like me that gets to sit in an office all day long to somebody who's out there, being a police officer or firefighter. We all know, we all read in the paper the stuff that they have to witness. We've seen it here in Allen Park. We've had shootings lately. We've had the drowning over at the apartments. I mean, you guys, I'm not going to belabor it, but you know what these police officers have to see and what they have to live through. So let's be apples and apples. The other thing, I think that the only thing that I can remember that I guess I took a little bit of exception to was the blanket statement that Ms. Parker could have came in, how long have you been here now, 8 months or something like that? Could have came in and immediately just broken all the contracts and all that. Well, Ms. Parker has a boss just like a lot of us do, and that boss is the state of Michigan. And her boss, and certainly correct me or chime in anytime you want, Her boss told her she had to negotiate and that she couldn't impose until she reached an impasse. And that's what she did. She negotiated, she was able to get a contract with the fire department, and she was at impasse with the police department. She did exactly what her boss asked her. She did not have the opportunity to come in 8 months ago or whatever and just set aside contracts. If I'm saying something wrong, certainly correct me. So those were really the only two things that I kind of took exception to. And again, I apologize for, I often say we should never use anybody's name up here, and I did, and I was apologetic for that. I do agree we need to be respectful of one another, and I know that we all have different points and what have you. But again, I'm just going to end on this, and I know I'm going long, but I want to challenge all of you out there in the audience and all of you that are watching on TV to do your fact checking. I'm so happy to hear that this lady came up and said that she actually ran the numbers and knew what she was talking about with her millage, because there is a lot of stuff that is said on both sides of this table and at that microphone that are not true. And somebody emailed me this past week and said, when somebody gets up to that microphone and says something, unless you refute it, I assume it's true. Well, please, folks, and I'm going to tell you what I responded in an email. Please, folks, don't ever believe that. Don't ever believe that. You have to do your own fact checking. There's no fact checking from any side. If there's something that I say that you want to challenge me on, email me. I get it all the time. I'll provide you the facts. I'll do whatever I can. My statement tonight about the state police, I have the copy of page 21 of the Michigan State Police manual right here that lays out their pension. I'll show it to you, anybody that wants to see it after, so you know I'm not making numbers up. But we hear, 95% of all the people, nobody gets to find, 95% of people get this, and 95, people just make up numbers. Show me the document that shows 95% of this and that. There's nothing. There's no fact checking. So please, I implore you, run your own numbers. Look at the documentation's out there. Go to the website. Watch the video that Ms. Parker has on there. Look at the numbers. You know what your SCV is. Run the numbers. See what it's going to cost you. Make an educated decision. Don't believe what you hear from us or from them. Thanks.
Mr. Cisco.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I'd like to acknowledge again Mrs. Carnarvon, that the mayor gave her as July 20th her day, and I think that was a pretty great thing to do. Having known a lot of the Carnarvons in my life, that's a pretty terrific family, actually. They've been stalwarts in the city of Allen Park for a long time. So congratulations. And I just want to, there's some things that maybe there's been a lot said tonight, and I have to congratulate the fire department for doing what they've done, coming forward. And they've taken a big hit. The police department's taken a big hit. And I would hate to see what the city would look like if the millage fails. I know Mr. Hickey came up here and talked about the schools, and I absolutely agree. What kind of effect does a failed millage have on our school system? Everybody needs to think about that. All those kids, very important that we provide them safety in many ways, which extends out into the community. So, congratulations. We had originally, as a council, talked about shared sacrifice, and Ms. Parker has talked about shared responsibility. But the hits that the police and fire have taken is a big sacrifice. It is. And there's not one person in this room would like it. Not one. I didn't like it when our pay got cut in half. And that was only, how much is that?
$2,250.
Yeah, I mean, on a monthly basis, $170 or whatever it was. So can you imagine somebody taking a $10,000, $15,000 cut to their pay or more? It's a lot. We don't have the final numbers yet, and I hope Ms. Parker will give out those numbers at some point so everybody can see what the sacrifice was. And what we're asking as a city, as the individuals, as some said, $130, $240, whatever the number is. Compare that to what the employees of the city have given.
Have those documents out there.
And that is a lot. It's a lot to ask for. And everybody's wanted it, and it's now here. And we have a lot of great employees here. I mean, we need to touch on that too. You know, I didn't get elected to come up here and bash the police or bash the firemen or bash our DPS, DPW workers. That's not why I was here. I was here to try to fix things and not punish people. And there's a lot of people in this room that want to punish people. That's not why I'm here. And just don't forget, July 18th, United for Allen Park Walk, 6:30. Starts at the Presbyterian Church, ends up at Cabrini. Hope to see everybody out there. Thank you.
Mr. Templin, I'm sorry.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Everybody's been saying the same thing, and I'm going to say the same thing also, is that our employees have taken a tremendous, and I find it very shocking, cut in pay and benefits. And everybody wanted to see sacrifice by our employees. Well, they sure have taken it. They all have. Police, fire, AFSCME, appointees. I don't know if anybody's ever been asked to take I'm real quick math that I've done is anywhere from 25 to 30% cut in pay when you add all the benefits and their pensions that are going to be reduced that a lot of these guys have worked 20 years and we're hoping for. We've got people that have left early that aren't going to get a pension for a number of years because they're deferring what they have or trying to save. Our employees have made sacrifices. We're shorthanded. Everybody's working harder, doing 3 and 4 or 5 different jobs, trying to get the work done. I don't know how City Hall can even function with the 2 or 3 girls that they have here, with everybody coming in. I don't know how police and fire are making it with how they've been short-staffed. I know back when I was working, we had 20 some odd more officers. I felt pretty safe out there when I knew that I could count on 4 or 5 at minimum, if not 6 or 7 guys that come to your aid or come help out at a fire, and you had everybody working together. And now there's, what, 3 or 4, maybe 5 firemen working a scene. I don't know how they're getting the job done because I've been on a lot of those scenes. And you need more than what we've got. And now you're asking them to do it for a lot less money. That you start doing comparables, and all this stuff over all these years, it's always been comparables. That you compare other cities and not just downriver. Allen Park can't be just compared to Melvindale or Lincoln Park because we have a different tax base. We have different expectations. We have different requirements for the job. I mean, we're compared to other cities in the greater metro area. And a 2.5 multiplier pension is one of the lowest now if you start comparing all the cities. State police 2.4. I know there's other cities that are 2.8, 2.7. So don't think that our guys haven't taken the sacrifice they have. They've taken a big hit. And I just hope that everybody else can step up to the plate now and that we can get Allen Park the way that we want it to be, or to at least maintain what we have. Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate all the presentations that we had. Mr. Simmerly, it's nice seeing you. I've heard your name. You did a nice presentation. thank you for doing the work that you're doing. It's thankless job what you're doing, ordinance. Police officers never wanted to do it. And after that, I just hope from now on is that we can respect each other and realize that there's different points of views and that we all have to work together to make things the way we want it to be. Thanks again tonight. God bless you all.
Mr. Mizzi.
Just some quick election stuff. Yesterday was the last day to register to vote for the August 6th election. We get a lot of mail-in, but I'm very proud to say that we had roughly, I think it was a little over a dozen people come in over the counter to register to vote. So kudos to all those people. I don't care if they're yes or no, just as long as they get the opportunity to do so. Which brings me to the reminder that all precincts will be located here at City Hall. So do not go to your normal polling place on August 6th. You want to come here to the auditorium. And what we'll do is we'll have on the wall, so bring your voter ID card and know your number, what you're usually in, okay? Because we're going to have a breakdown on the wall that tells you there's only going to be 5 precincts. So we're condensing 16 voting precincts into 5. And on the wall again, it'll tell you, say if you're in precinct 2, you actually go to precinct 1. Because I know it sounds confusing, but by law, I have to call them precincts by numbers. I know people have suggested, why don't you use letters and stuff like that to simplify? By law, I can't. I know it gets confusing with numbers, but again, bring your voter ID card and look at your normal voting precinct, and then on the walls it'll tell you whether to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next meeting, I'll come down with a better breakdown. You'll also be receiving postcards at your house. I'll be putting ads in the paper. I'll be really doing a push for that. So, but it is very important. Whether you're for it or against it, just get out there and make that difference. People laugh about one vote, my vote doesn't count. I've actually got to see that firsthand where somebody lost by 1 vote. It was a school board race a couple years ago. Now there was a recount and whatnot, but 1 vote, an incumbent school board member no longer had his seat. So people think, oh, that doesn't matter. It doesn't, no, 1 vote really does matter. So another thing I have to recognize, Tim, I know this is beaten up like a dead horse, but about respect. Now, Mr. O'Brien's a very staunch libertarian. He's one of the most, I think he's really high up in the state party. Him and Councilman Tertzag, who was probably one of the biggest liberal Democrats, used to argue all the time. Never agreed. A liberal Democrat and a libertarian. They would never hesitate to go out and hang out after a council meeting. They never took it personal. And that's exactly what's going on. It's not just personal, but it's gotcha. I'll show you. Oh, you think this, I'll get you. That's a joke. We're not going to advance if we keep doing that. I'm always hearing stuff about the property next door. I don't care, you vote yes, you vote no, you have your own reasons, but don't do it out of spite for that, okay? Everyone involved in that pretty much is completely gone. And if anyone who knows me knows, I have a lot of bitter feelings because I watched it all unravel. I was in those meetings where that information just didn't make sense and didn't jive. It's being handled. Ms. Parker has said there's 2 federal investigations. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. But don't let this defunct land just ruin something for you. Whether use it on what they said, do your own info digging. It's out there. Also, I just like to recognize Ms. Carnarvon. 90 years is a heck of a lot of time, and 11 children. You just never really hear that. I know her kids are older, but if I had a friend that said we're having a 6th child, I'd look and say, what are you, crazy, man? So you got to admire the older generation, and she is part of what I believe they called the greatest generation, and that is so true. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. God bless you, and good night.
Ms. Parker.
I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank Ben Harris and Trent Wolf for coming out tonight to talk about the Allen Park, United for Allen Park Walk and Rally that's coming up on July 18th. Both of them have volunteered to participate, and they're both Allen Park residents, and I believe attend Central Michigan University. So thank you for coming out tonight. And then, just on a final note, I'd like to just remind everyone that we really have had shared responsibility, shared sacrifices here with the city. Staffing-wise, the city is very lean right now, and as mentioned by others, we have employees doing 2 to 3 jobs simply because the staffing is not in place. And so I would ask all of you to come out on August 6th and vote, and let that vote be counted in terms of moving Allen Park forward.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I want to just take a moment. We always talk about being respectful of each other, and we do have the rules of decorum at the entrance to the chambers here. But just to remind people, item 8, no individual shall be allowed to make any defamatory attack or invasion of another individual's personal life. There shall be no questions, comments, discussions, or attacks regarding anybody's personal life. And so it's pretty clear, it's stated here. I try to enforce it. Unfortunately, when a person's standing at that mic or sitting in the audience, and maybe I don't hear as well as I once did, or maybe I'm listening up here and not listening to what's going on back there. But we have to be aware of that when we speak, and that applies to the people who sit here as elected officials, as well as the citizens that come forward to comment. In addition, the other item is a member of the public body may question the speakers, but the members of the public body are not obligated to answer any questions or make any statement on the issue raised or discussed by the speaker. So you have the right to ask it. We can have the right to reserve comment, or you can raise an issue, didn't think you asked a question, but it may get a response. So be aware of those things that are there. Obviously, a lot of us have talked about the July 18th United Walk. I hope as many of you that can will come and present a city that I think is much more united than what we happen to see maybe on up here as elected officials or as people commenting. We have more in common than we really have differences. And we need to realize that, and realize that the things we have in common are really our strength. So I hope that we will come out and do that. I want to thank the police and fire services for their contract. Unfortunately, the police, we don't have theirs in place, but probably will get there now. But think about it, there's about 54 men and women in those two services that are going to give up $2 million in benefits and pay, of which well over $1 million will be in direct reductions in pay or requirements to contribute to their health care. And we have a 6 3/4 mills, but really 3.5 mills are already in place. So it's 3 1/4, which is about $2 million. So those two unions will be sacrificing, those employees will be paying, and there's a millage of about a similar amount to that 28,000 people are asked to contribute to in this city. So it seems to me that it's about a 1-to-1, and there's a lot more of us making up the 2 million than the 54 people making up the 2 million. The last item is the way our budget is structured and how thin our personnel are without the additional 3 1/4 mills, or if we got it. there's no way to divert that funds to the other parts of the budget, because if we tried to divert any money that we've allocated to the police and fire, we couldn't pay them, and we couldn't equip them, and we couldn't provide a place for them to work. So there's no place in this budget where funds can be moved literally between departments. We've got everybody kind of fixed in place like they're in silos, simply because we've made so many cuts in all of the departments. You hear citizens come and talk about trees and that. 10 years ago, we had 4 people that trimmed trees, we had 4 people that removed trees, we had 4 people that did nothing but work on fire breaks and sewers, and we had 4 people on streets maintenance. Today, instead of those 16, we have 4. And so when people say, well, you ought to do this, we're trying to do it, but we just can't get things done as fast and as quickly, and certainly we can't cut any more of those people. As much as we need the security of police and fire, we need the security of clean water, we need the security of our waste being hauled away, and our sewers removing those other wastes that we generate internally in our homes and businesses. So I don't think there's any way that any money gets moved around in this budget in the near term. And in addition to those, you should realize that before the 3.5 mills were in, we were levying about 10.4 mills. The charter provided for 12.5, but in the 90s, when property values went up a great deal, Headley came in and rolled back to 2.5 mills. Basically, those 2.5 mills have never been put back in place as the values of property declined from 2007 to the present. Even though we have a slight increase in property taxes for this year, it's not home property taxes that are going up. They still fell about 2.2%. It's just one big lawsuit we won against the Ford Motor Company that gave us a large personal and real property tax increase in those businesses. So I think it's in the foreseeable future going to be a very tight budget, and I don't think we're going to see great moves in our property values going up. At least there's nothing to indicate that. So I hope people will come out to the United meeting, that they will look at our budget that's online, that they will look at the items in the contract. Ms. Parker's provided for you as you leave tonight. There is a firefighters reach agreement statement by her, as well as the highlights of their, I won't call them highlights because that's not really highlights from their perspective, but I guess it tells about the greatest changes in their contract, which are all really in favor of the city. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mr. Cisco's moved.
Support.
Support by Mr. Templin. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone.
Happy birthday, sir.